I gave up my name, my power, and my inheritance to build a quiet life with Darnell Houston. I hid my identity as a Whitaker, believing love mattered more than legacy. But while I sacrificed everything, my health, my child, my future, Darnell built his empire on my silence and betrayed me with the woman who stole my place in his life. I was left broken until I remembered who I truly was. If you're new here, part 1 is already on this channel. Watch it first because the truth changes everything. The look on Darnell's face at the gala was worth every tear I shed in that hospital bed. Seeing him drop that glass, watching the color drain from his face as I was announced as the new head of Whitaker Global was better than any drug. He tried to reach me as I walked off the stage, but Julian Carter and my security team blocked him before he could even get close. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. The silence of a Whitaker is more dangerous than the shouting of a Houston. That night, Darnell blew up my phone. He left 30 voicemails, switching between begging for a second chance and accusing me of trapping him by hiding my wealth. I didn't listen to a single one. I sat in my grandfather's study, looking at the files Julian had gathered. My grandfather Otis sat across from me, sipping his bourbon, his eyes sharp as a hawk. He told me that Darnell had used my secret trust fund, the one I had given him access to for emergencies, to fund LaToya's lifestyle for the last 6 years. He didn't just break my heart, he robbed me while I was sleeping in the same bed as him. By Monday morning, the demolition of Darnell Houston began. I started with his real estate projects. Every bank in Texas knows the Whitaker name, and when I made a few phone calls, Darnell's credit lines were frozen. He thought he was a self-made man, but he was about to realize he was just a man I had allowed to succeed. While I was dismantling his business, Julian was dismantling his life. We finally got the original medical records from the car crash 7 years ago. The truth was even more twisted than I imagined. LaToya Sims hadn't just faked being the hero. She had paid off a crooked orderly to switch our charts while I was in surgery. Darnell was convinced she was his savior because she had the scars to prove it, scars she got from the airbag deployed in her own car when she hit him. She had been living a lie for nearly a decade, and I was the one who paid for it with my health. The confrontation happened 2 days later at the Houston family home, the house I had turned into a sanctuary, now occupied by LaToya and Tiana. I walked in with Julian and the sheriff. LaToya was in the kitchen, acting like she owned the place, wearing a silk robe I had bought for myself. When she saw me, she tried to act tough. She told me to get out of her house. I just smiled and handed her the eviction notice. I told her that since the house was bought with embezzled funds from the Whitaker Trust, it had been seized. But the real blow came when the sheriff stepped forward. LaToya was being arrested for insurance fraud and hit-and-run charges stemming from that night 7 years ago. As they handcuffed her, she started screaming for Darnell. Darnell pulled into the driveway just as they were leading her away. He looked haggard, his expensive suit wrinkled and his eyes bloodshot. He looked at me, then at the handcuffs on LaToya, and finally at Tiana, who was crying in the doorway. He tried to play the victim one last time. He told me that even if I hated him, I couldn't take Tiana away from him. That was when I handed him the final set of papers. "Darnell," I said, my voice as cold as ice, "I'm not taking her from you. You never had her. I filed for emergency custody based on LaToya's criminal record and your negligence. And since you're about to be bankrupt, the court is going to agree that the only stable home this girl has ever known is with me." The legal battle that followed was short and brutal. Without my money to pay for high-priced lawyers, Darnell was defenseless. In the courtroom, the judge looked at the evidence of his embezzlement and LaToya's long-term deception. LaToya was sentenced to 10 years for the accident and the fraud. Darnell lost everything: his company, his cars, and his pride. The last time I saw Darnell was the day he signed the final settlement. He was sitting in a plastic chair in a gray hallway, looking like a ghost of the man I once loved. His voice cracked as he asked me if I ever really loved him. I looked him straight in the eyes and told him the truth. I love the man I thought you were, Darnell, but that man never existed. He was just a ghost I created so I could have a reason to run away from being a Whitaker. You didn't just lose me. You lost the only person who would have stayed with you if you had nothing. Now, you actually have nothing. Enjoy it. I walked out of that courthouse and didn't look back. Julian was waiting for me at the bottom of the steps, holding the door to the SUV open. As we drove away, I looked at Tiana sitting in the back seat, finally safe and finally mine in the eyes of the law. I touched my stomach thinking of the child I had lost and promised that I would spend the rest of my life making sure the Whitaker name stood for something real. My grandfather was waiting for us at the estate with a small celebration. He told me he was proud of the woman I had become. But I told him I was just the woman he had raised me to be. I took my seat at the head of the boardroom table the next morning, ready to lead the empire. I had paid my debt of blood, and now I was ready to build my own legacy. Darnell Houston was a lesson I had to learn the hard way. But in the end, he didn't break me. He just reminded me that a Whitaker doesn't hide in the shadows. We own the light.